Mark and Maria Talbot, thank you so much for coming in this evening. I'm really excited to continue the conversation that we had from earlier, and we have a lot to cover. Did you get the agenda I sent out ahead of time? Wonderful. So the first thing on that agenda is education, and there's a lot to cover, so why don't we just jump right in. Funding both Ricky and James's education is going to cost over $200,000. It's going to be $258,023. And with inflation affecting $22,000 a year tuition today, that means that when Ricky first goes to school, it will have grown to $27,774. And during James's last year, it's going to be $37,168. That's a lot of growth, and there's a lot to save. So what's the present value of that? The present value in today's dollars is $155,000 and change. It's almost $156,000. And where's that money going to come from? Maria, you said that you had a CD that had $22,747. And that money we should move into the bonds, those two bonds that are paying an average of 8% a year. But that's $133,000 left over that we need to find so that we can fund those boys' education. And so where's that going to come from? Well, we're going to take it from Manny's insurance proceeds. And Maria, I'm very sorry about the passing of your husband. I know that's a very difficult point. And Mark, I'm very sorry to hear as well that you and the boys are not getting along, and because of this situation, you're not going to cover any of the expenses for their education. The good news is, Maria, you're going to be okay, and I'm going to explain to you why. Some of the ways that you can fund college education, you can use a Coverdell, but these are bad because there's a lot of work involved for very little gains. Like a Roth, you have pre-tax money which goes into it, and then when you pull it out, the growth has not been taxed, and neither is the money that you pull out. But there's a $2,000 max that you can put in per child. And so there's a lot of issues that comes up when you're trying to fund over $150,000 of education. So we're not going to look at the Coverdell. The other issue is that there's a phase out, which won't affect your income right now, but when you get closer to Emma's education and when she goes off to school, that's when it's really going to hurt. And so the phase out will allow you to fund now but not later. But we're not going to fund using the Coverdell because of the issues involved. What's another option? You have custodial accounts. A UGMA or a UTMA. People like these because they are meant for education and the kids, but people don't like them because there's high taxes involved, and there's this whole issue where once the child reaches the age of majority, which would be, unless they're very smart, during their college years, the control of the money goes from you, Maria and Mark, into their hands, and most people don't want their child to have money during that point in time. And so what's another option if we're not going to include those custodial accounts? We could certainly leave the money in a brokerage account, which is where it is right now, but you'd have to pay taxes. So is there something that's a little more cost effective? And good news, there is. It happens to be a 529 plan. And so a 529 plan allows you to take $14,000 a year, the annual exclusion for gift taxes, and put that towards the child. So, Mark, you can put in $14,000 for any child. Maria, you could as well as anyone in your family or friends, anybody who feels like they want to be generous to the tune of anywhere between $0 and $14,000. But the two of you together, that's only $28,000. So where's the $70,000 and change going to come from? Because we have the needs of $79,000 for Ricky and $76,000 in present value for James and what they need for college education. So there's this other thing where you can super fund, and it's where you take this year and 5 years in the future, so this year and another 4 years of $14,000 a year, and you put those all together so that you can super fund with $70,000 per person per child in a year. Now you do have to wait until the 6th year after doing this to do another $70,000 or even $1 for that matter. But the point is you can fund a lot today. But Maria, since you're the one who's going to fund it completely, there's not a lot of room if we want to do something now versus wait. So it seems like the 529 plan isn't going to work. However, there is one other piece of it which allows any 529 plan to move between family members, which means it could move to you, it could move to a sibling, which means that we could fund another sibling, Emma for instance. We could super fund hers at $15,900, and that would allow us to take $6,500 and put that towards James, and then $9,400 and put that towards Ricky's. And that would allow us to fully fund their needs for the present value of their college education today. And that would be wonderful. Now, Mark, I know that you're feeling a little left out, and so what can we do to get you involved too? Well, so that you aren't feeling left out, you can also contribute to Emma's 529 plan. Now, if we were to fund 100% today, like we are with the boys, you would have to have $63,000. And I know that that's not something that we've been planning for. So what are other options? Well, you could put a little lump sum down now and then save some more in the future, but let's just talk about a straight line. $6,638 a year, Mark, for 16 years getting that same 8% return would fully fund Emma's college education, which 16 years from now is 1 year away from retirement, and I'm sure you would have a little bit of peace of mind knowing that her college education is fully funded right before you go into retirement. And so our action items are to open up a 529 for all 3 of the children. Ricky will get $70,000 from Maria. James will get $70,000 from Maria. And Maria will put in $15,900 and change into Emma's to split those across to the other boys. Mark will then come in and fund Emma's annual savings amount, which is that $66.38, and he will do so again another 15 times before she goes off to school. And that way we have a plan to fully fund all the children's education with the boys being funded today. And I know that there's a lot that we just covered, and certainly before we move on to the next item on our agenda, if you have any questions, please let me know. Also, after the meeting, if you have any questions, reach out, because you've got my email, you've got my phone, and there's bound to be questions afterwards for things that we covered. But at the end of the day, I'm very happy to say that there is a way to cover expenses for college and let Manny's legacy live on while letting you all have peace of mind knowing that you're educating your children. So, thank you very much.